Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome here tonight for this, the second of the Town Hall meetings. This is an information meeting. You'll have the opportunity to ask questions after we've had our speakers. So let's kick off. Swan Hill Rural City Council acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet here today, and we pay our respects to their elders past and present. Now, we have a number of speakers tonight. And I'll ask you to just raise your hand to identify yourself, and I'll just run through the speakers. We have a situation update from Diana Batley, Operations Manager, Victorian State Emergency Service. So thank you. We have Warwick Bishop, Senior Hydrology and Water Technology. Warwick, yep. We have Bruce Myers from Council, Director of Community and Cultural Services. Bruce. Victoria Police, we have Superintendent John O'Connor and Senior Sergeant Roberta Barry, and Roberta will be running through a few things tonight. We have AgVic's Melissa Cann here, Program Manager of Resilience and Recovery. Put your hand up, please. Yep, everybody knows who you are. Thank you. Well, without any further ado, as I said, questions can be asked afterwards, and speakers up front will be around for a little while afterwards to answer a few questions. There's also Council's operational staff here to answer any questions, and I think that's about it. So without any further ado, I'll ask Diana to come up and go for it.
I believe we can talk here, but thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for coming along this evening. And so, as we understand, the Murray River flood event will last for many weeks, and as you can understand, those that have lived through this before can be up to some months as it progresses to the Mildura fire, the Boundary Bend, Robinvale. Floodwaters from Campaspe and the Golden Rivers combined with flows down the Murray River have caused major flooding, as you're aware, at Echuca, where the river peaked around 94.98 Wednesday night. This was higher than the October 1993 and November 1975 flood peaks. The river level at Barmer peaked on Wednesday 26 with major flooding. What we've done is we've updated our warning systems as of today, and this is to reflect a better, well-informed communication system. As it's been over the last week or so, the Murray River from downstream Barmer to Wentworth had quite a significant area that we're covering. So we thought it would be far easier if we split this warning area into 6 areas to make it easier for you, the community, to understand. These areas are broken down from the Murray River downstream of Barmer to Pental Island, the Murray River Pental Island to Beverford, Murray River Beverford to Wacool Junction, and Murray River downstream of Wacool Junction to Robinvale, the Murray River Robinvale to Lepura, and the Murray River downstream Lepura to Wentworth. With our levy assessments, the levy from Swan Hill to Zebra is being monitored, and we have identified some low points and started works there, which have progressed as far north as Marydale. We don't expect the floodwaters to cross the Murray Valley Highway, and also don't expect the bridge at Tullibak to be impacted. However, the road to the bridge on the Victorian side may be affected, so we will undertake works where it is necessary, and we are closely monitoring the situation. The Murray River at Swan Hill is still below the minor flood level of 4.5. The river was steady at 4.42 as of 5 o'clock today, and the peak is moving downstream from Barmah very slowly. High water levels continue to move downstream, and we can expect the river to stay high throughout the next few weeks. With the Murray River closure from Tocumwal to Robin Vale, it prevents the wake undermining our levee banks and damaging homes and properties. So people and boats from both sides of the border are prohibited. Levees, as we understand, they can be compromised, and we have seen this. And they can also overtop or breach during these flood sort of situations. So we do like to remind everyone to please stay safe out there, be aware of your situation, and please do not interfere with those flood levees. If you do need any assistance, anything to do with flood storm assistance, please call VIC-SES on 132 500. And you can call council to report any other concerns with levees, such as low points or any seepages. We do have the Swan Hill Incident Control Centre open 24/7 at the moment. In this Incident Control Centre, we have all agencies assisting, from VIC-SES, our Country Fire Authority, Victorian Fire Rescue, our Victorian Police colleagues. Council is in there informing us. We also have Ambulance Victoria, Agriculture Victoria, the Defence Force. We have our catchment management authorities advising us of very important intelligence on how the flows are going. We also have Lifesaving Victoria, which have been supporting us, and some interstate guests from Western Australia and South Australia, also supporting, helping in our planning and progression as we go. It's important that we keep you as informed as we can, and we have been putting together community newsletters. The last one was 29th of October, and we'll continue to do so to keep everyone well informed. We also have some more community information sessions that we will be conducting over the next few weeks. In particular, we do have a session planned, a pop drop-in session at a Piangle on Wednesday afternoon. With that, I will now hand over to our hydrologist.
It's on? Right. Hi. Good evening, everyone. My name's Warwick Bishop. I'm called a hydrologist. I'm actually a civil engineer with a water engineering background, but in terms of assisting SES and the incident control centres during flood events, we undertake the role of hydrologist, and that's our role is to work with the Catchment Management Authority and provide assistance to them in a technical nature, interpreting and understanding and communicating flood information to the responsible agencies in support within the ICC, but also assisting with the communication to the community as well, because that's obviously a really important aspect. Our work with the CMA goes right through from flood studies. So we undertake flood studies from time to time, and flood investigations, and that involves analysing historic floods and undertaking flood modelling and producing flood studies with often recommendations for flood mitigation as well. And then that flows through to a response role in situations such as this when actual floods occur, and all that planning work around mapping and trying to understand the flood risk to communities and infrastructure and rural areas comes to the fore, and we can use that to help inform the flood response process. In terms of what's happening at the moment with the river systems, obviously there's been a really big series of floods in different catchments across northern Victoria. And the nature of the Murray system is quite complex. You've got significant flood flows coming down from the tributaries from the Ovens and the King in the east through the Goulburn, which has had a very significant flood event. You would have seen thousands of properties inundated within Shepherd and Mooroopna. And all that water makes its way down the Goulburn system into the Murray upstream of Echuca. At Echuca, you've also got the Campaspe River coming in as well, which had a very significant flood, bigger than 2011. And all that water combines into the Murray River around that sort of Barmer Choke area. And some of the flow goes north into New South Wales through the Edward, and the rest heads further west down towards eventually reaching Swan Hill. You've also then got the Evoca, which sometimes makes its way through to the Murray, and then obviously a big input from the Loddon River, which is a bit closer to home here at the top end of Pental Island. So it is a very complex system, and the consequence of that effectively is it makes it quite challenging to predict exactly how high and when flood peaks will flow through. But we, together with the Bureau of Meteorology and other agencies, do our best to monitor flows and levels and then make the predictions, the best predictions we can. But it's important to recognise that none of those forecasts or predictions are ever perfect, but they're our best estimate, and they're pretty reliable. We tend to, if anything, be a little bit maybe conservative in that, so we'd rather be a little bit higher and the flood eventually not reach that peak than obviously under-predict and then have the water level exceed that. At the moment, we're basing our predictions on the volumes of water that we expect to come down the Murray and its tributaries to be something similar to the 1993 flood event. And that's what the predictions at the moment are based on through Swan Hill and also downstream from Swan Hill through the Murray system all the way past Naya and so forth towards the border. So that's what we're working with at the moment. It's, as mentioned before, in town here it's currently at 4.4 metres on the gauge, and it's the sort of expected level which we may get to in the next 1 to 2 weeks or sort of 7 to 10 days could be around 4.6 to 4.7 metres. So not a huge increase, but it's certainly enough to make a big impact. The other thing I'd probably just mention is that, and I'm sure many people are aware of this, having lived with the river for years or decades in many cases, that it is a perched, sort of what we call a perched river system. There's levee banks on both sides, and it's really those levee banks that determine what happens in terms of flooding and flood impacts from upstream of Pental Island, from Barham all the way through Swan Hill and downstream as well. So the critical thing that you'll hear mentioned again and again is what's the condition of the levees, how are the levees going, are there areas of levees that need checking and strengthening, and that's a lot of the fantastic work that's being coordinated out of the ICC and undertaken by different crews, including the Defence Force, who have been assisting in that space. In terms of where things are going, fortunately this week there hasn't been as much rain as there potentially could have been, and so we're not seeing significant additional inflows coming into those rivers that might cause an unexpected rise in what's already a very swollen and full river system. I'm happy to probably leave it there if that's all right, and pass to the next person.
Hand over to Bruce.
Hi everyone, Bruce Myers from Swan Rural City Council. Just a quick update on what's been happening with the relief situation. So part of Council's responsibility in an emergency situation is to provide relief. And I've not much more to add to that than what I said last week, other than we continue to support people from Kerrang and around Kerrang. On Saturday, the Safe to Return announcement went out for people who live in Kerrang Township, so a number of people have returned home via the short way via Moolameen, 2 hours, or the long way via Bridgewater, which is about 3 hours. We still have a number of people throughout Swan Hill that are, unfortunately, the houses have been inundated or their properties have suffered some sort of damage, so they could be with us for a while. We're also really appreciative of the support from the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing with assisting people with getting grants to pay their bills and get on with life a little bit. And also VicPol, a couple of colleagues down there that have been at the centre keeping the place secure at the stadium. So the Swan Hill Stadium at 15 Grey Street is the emergency relief centre for this area at the moment. It is mainly for people from Gunawarra, and we have had people coming in overnight whose farms and properties outside the levee have been impacted. So this could continue for a while, and we'll continue to look after them. Just a reminder as well, a lot of people have been looking to donate goods or services at the Relief Centre, and we are promoting the Give It website, which has been used across the state for this flood emergency. So GIVIT, if you just Google that. You can actually list everything and where you are, and when people need things, we can look for it quite easily and get it targeted. So, and also appreciate the patience of the various users at the basketball stadium. We've been able to continue basketball competition and squash and other things while we're still running the relief centre, so it's working out pretty well. As things continue and the issues potentially move downstream, we're in a position to set up alternative relief centres where needed, or put things in place to support people who might be displaced and need to be evacuated. So hopefully that doesn't come to be, but if it is, we'll be ready for it. We'll hand over to Roberta, Dale and John from Big Pole.
Thanks, Bruce. Thanks everyone for coming. Nice little turnout tonight. Firstly, we want to reiterate from a police point of view the importance of ringing 000 in an emergency. For rescues and anything that's flood related, of course it's with the SES, but we still have our business as usual where other things still do happen, whether they're car accidents or something along those lines, it's still 000 for us. So keep that one in mind. I'm pretty sure it's hard to forget these days. Another thing too, if it comes to the fact that some houses may need to evacuate, if you have firearms in your house or you know of somebody that has firearms that need removing to make sure that they're safe, there are places where you can take them prior to any of this ever happening. The first one is to store it with the local firearms dealer. You can take them up there and they'll store them for you. There may be a small cost, but when I say small, it is only small. Or you can store it at a friend's place. As long as you haven't got over 15 firearms, and that might end up becoming a bit of an issue. Or if you have none of those options available to you, you can take them up to the police station. However, I would ask before you take them in, that you go in and let the police know that you'd like to bring some firearms in. Please don't walk in with firearms without first notifying someone. You might get something that you're not expecting there. The other thing too is with evacuations, we're not overly panicking about evacuations, but it's always ready and better to be prepared in case. So if you're in a low-lying area, certainly it's something that you need to consider and that you need to have a plan for. There's plenty of plans on the SES website for you to have a look at to try and bring up your own plans. Red Cross also have really good plans for you to consider, and along those plans, of course, are the most important things that you need to take with you, or if you're going to stay, is to make sure that you have plenty of your medication. Quite often you might not be able to access your local pharmacy to continue on with your medication. Make sure you've got sufficient medication, prior to any flooding occurring, rather than thinking later on, oh, I should have gone up. Have a bit of think ahead. Make sure that you know what to do with your animals, that you've got sufficient food without overdoing it at the supermarket. I'm not sure that there's much left on the shelves, is there? There's toilet paper. That might be a bit hard. Water, is it? But anyway, look, it is really important just to, stock up for at least a week to make sure that you're comfortable in your own home if you choose to stay. And when it comes to evacuation, it is your choice. We give you all the tools and advice as to what to do and how to do it, but in the end it's your choice whether you remain or stay. You can't be forced out of your home, just so that you know. There's a lot of road traffic starting to build, particularly on this being the long weekend. If you don't have to travel, don't travel, simply because there are still roadblocks going on. There is still some roads that are flooded. And aside from that, once the water subsides, a lot of the roads are in really poor condition now. So you need to really adjust your driving to the conditions. Just because it says 100 doesn't mean you have to. It might mean, you know, just dropping off 5 or 10 to make sure that, you know, you're not doing damage to the car or causing yourself an accident somehow. Make sure, if you can, just prepare around your home. Make sure you know what your pets, you've got plenty of food for your pets and items like that. Don't forget that if you're on the septic system, if you're out of town, if that gets flooded, you can't use it because it becomes very difficult. You'll need to get a plumber in. It's the same thing. If you have to evacuate, make sure you turn all your power off. Turn all your gas off, all those little things that we don't necessarily think of. But in the end, it's just about your safety and the safety of your loved ones and of your pets too. So just have that little plan in mind.
Thanks, Roberta. A lot of useful information there. Melissa.
Thank you. It's Melissa Can from Agriculture Victoria. Agriculture Victoria plays a supporting role to help respond to any urgent animal welfare issues, and also we're assessing any agricultural losses and damage to inform how the relief and recovery response occurs now and into the future. So if anyone has any urgent animal welfare needs, they can call Agriculture Victoria on the 1800 226 226 number. We do have a wide-ranging resources for anyone who has some agriculture or horticulture with that 1800 number on it. There's some flyers down the back. Please take some for your or any of your families who might need them. One of the key things, and I think everyone's mentioned it today, is about preparedness, planning and act early. And from a livestock or farming point of view, landowners should obviously keep informed of the current water updates and if needed move stock, whether it's one or a mob or machinery or any fodder that you have to higher ground, or have other arrangements in place to move them early before any floodwater comes. But also don't forget that your pets should be part of your emergency planning as well, as Roberta is related to. And be aware of, if you've got horticulture property, be aware of some crops might be affected from contaminated water, so they may be unsafe or unsuitable for sale. So it's just something to be aware of and watch out, and AgVic can support you with resources there. But livestock owners are also reminded to be aware of any animal health issues that might be brought on about the floods. And tonight I have 2 animal health and welfare staff available to answer any questions. Robin and Berin down the back. They're available to chat to later on. Just one other thing I just wanted to mention was around the black water. So obviously we've seen the changing colour of the Murray. So the black water is really water that has little or no oxygen in it, and it's obviously dark in colour due to the breakdown of plants and of organic matter. And this water can be temporarily unpalatable to livestock, but it's not usually poisonous to healthy sheep or livestock, but may harm some young or weak livestock. So if you've got access to fresh water, your livestock won't try and drink the contaminated water. It's just something to be aware of. And on another note, more broadly, you've probably seen staff, government out on the river. So Victoria Fisheries Authority is working with New South Wales Fisheries and other government agencies and actively monitoring the flood conditions and undertaking salvage and translocation operations for the crayfish and native fish where it is feasible to do so. So actively looking after our native wildlife from the river and the associated creeks. I'll leave it there, thanks.
Thanks, Mel. So that completes our speakers. Now we'll just go to questions. Do we have any questions from the audience, please? Righty, must have been very, very good at everything. Okay, if there's no questions, I'd just like to thank all our speakers for coming tonight. They will be available if you've got something private or something to talk about. As I said, council staff, operational staff are here as well. And before I go, thanks everybody up here. I'd also like a big thank you for all our SES volunteers doing a fantastic job all around. So put your hands together for those, please. So thank you. I think meeting closed. Thank you.